भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिनि व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ तत्सत्. So, we were doing this verse number 9. Before that, we were doing the verse number 8. Essentially, we are entering into a discussion on the Anandamaya Kosha. So, let me first explain and then we'll look at the text. What we were understanding in the previous course is what is the distinction between, first problem is to understand what are the basic difference between the Manomaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha. That is explained in a very clear, simple, okay, in the verse number 8 and 9. It has been very nicely explained. Then we will go and understand uh, the verse number 9, which deals with the Anandamaya Kosha. Now, we have already refuted the possibility of dealing with the Manomaya Kosha or the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Give me 1 second. Somebody's knock at the door. Just 1 second, please. So, the Manamaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha both have been refuted as being Atma, because the same thing, that they are Upadhi, they are influenced by Upadhi, they are not free from superimposition of Adhyas and Upadhi, and they are also not Chaitana, Swarupa. They are lit up by a higher order of consciousness. And number two, they are not Nitya. Buddhi goes to sleep, Manas goes to sleep, they all fall asleep in the deep sleep state. Therefore, we have summarily refuted their possibility of being the Atma Tattva, verily because of the fact that they are anitya, they are limited in terms of their span of existence, in terms of what they are and what they can show. They are kind of reflected light of the consciousness. They are not original source of consciousness. And Manas and Vijnanamaya Kosha, the distinction hinges on the fact that Vijnanamaya Kosha is antarmukhi, is deliberative, whereas Manamaya Kosha is kind of a means of getting linked up with the Vahya Vishayas. Because you have Vishaya and Indriya Sanyoga, and the Manas is kind of entangled in that process. Therefore, it has Sankalpa and Vikalpa. Then it turns inward, it's not externally oriented. When it becomes internally oriented, it's called the Vijnanamaya Kosha. But we have to understand that these are modification of same Antahkarana. One we call intelligence or intellect, the other one we call the mind, the moving, the jumping around, monkey mind. Having done so far, we went to the verse number 9 after this. And let me now share this. We had done it. So, what is that page? Yeah. So, I'll say that. Kalyan Piyusha with this. It says, if you look at it, Kachid Antaramukha Vrittir Ananda Pratibimba Bhag Punyo Bhoge Bhoga Santo Nidra Rupina Liyate. First, we have to make sense of what it means to address something as Anandamaya Kosha. That is the main challenge. Now, Vijnanamaya Kosha is intellect, Manamaya Kosha is the mind, the emotional mind. Anandamaya Kosha is that vritti, that modification of the consciousness, the modification of consciousness which enables us, or that modification in which an element of delight is reflected. We characterize it as a state of delight. There is a very tricky thing here. I will try to explain as it is explained in the Sanskrit commentary. What he's trying to say is you have pleasure and pain. Pleasure and pain are very cleanly linked with the indriyas or the sense perception, the tools of sense perception that you have, the senses you have, their entanglement with the external objects. That is pleasure and pain. Something, there's an alpine which, I get a prick. I'm experiencing pain. Somebody gives some sweet and I put it in the mouth, some sundaes or some chocolate or anything. So I'm experiencing pleasure. These pleasure and pain are typically externally oriented and they have a causal relationship with sense experience. However, the Ananda part is a little distinct, it's saying. What is that? When you see your favorite friend who calls you up, who wasn't talking to you for some time, you're a little angry. You had sent a project proposal to a client and you are not getting a response. And suddenly there's a response, you see the email. And there is a positive note. I mean, if you find something negative, you will be upset. But the moment you see it, you feel a certain happiness. Now he's saying there are two sides to it. One is the experience, which is typically externally oriented, but at the same time, there is an inward modification of the mind, yeah, where you, for a few seconds or minutes, you are in a state of delight, which is a self-sufficient thing. It is triggered by one external input. But this is that happiness he's trying to say is different from sukha. Sukha is just a moment of pleasure. But I mean, they are almost the same. One is the internal side, the other one is the external side. The obvious modification, which we can see at the level of our sense experience, we call it pleasure and pain. But he is again categorizing that particular experience of happiness or pleasure or whatever into three categories: priya, moda, and a pramoda. And what is priya? You saw something attractive or doll to the baby. The baby even doesn't know what it is. The baby is super happy. She jumps. That is called priya. And the trick there is that it is a modification of that mind. This modification has something to do with, because it's not limited to that object. Think about it. You are feeling a sense of delight which far exceeds that particular sense experience. There is something special about it, something different about it from that limited sense experience, because you are just looking at the doll as a child. Yeah, that is called moda. Why they are trying to distinguish between pleasure and delight of this kind, or ananda? Because there is this theory that there are externally oriented experiences of the mind and there are internally oriented experiences of the mind. When, as a result of our past good activities, you know, pious activities, auspicious activities, we are rewarded with a sense of happiness. If we reflect on it, it will become easier for us to understand. One of the catchy lines or slogans, which is often mentioned in the social media and everywhere, they will show a story where you are helping a person in need. Then he says, "Karke dekho, acha lagta hai. Do it. You will know how good it feels." Now, the happiness you feel by helping a person, you cannot call it pleasure. because it has nothing to be pleasurable. One old person who, in a terrible, chilly night, is lying beside the road, and you pick him up and you take him to a hospice or take him to a hospital to admit him, you are actually straining yourself. It's not pleasurable. And yet, there is a sense of delight, inner happiness which you are experiencing. What Vedantins say, this is not absence of pain. Sukha, the Nyayikas, the Nyaya philosophers think, is absence of pain is pleasure. But the Vedantins feel, no, this is not how you can reduce a sense of delight or happiness to absence of pain or unhappiness. It's tautological. It's going round and not explaining what it is independently. Their explanation is that there is a certain internalized modification of our consciousness of the mind, of the antakarana, where during our experience of such delights, there is, in fact, this modification of the consciousness of the mind is reflecting in a way, yeah, is a reflecting in a way the reflection of that Atma Tattva or that supreme truth, existence and bliss, existence and knowledge and bliss, Sachidananda Swarupa Atma, that is reflected on your pure consciousness, the Chidabhasha. That, in fact, at that level of that modification, you are experiencing delight, which, though having a link with some sense experience, cannot be explained only in the light of that sense experience. The happiness you find, your child, your daughter gets a reward. What is so pleasant about it? Because you are actually far removed from the ceremony where she is graduating. She sends you a video, you watch it, you're not so well, or you're busy with your work, and you feel bad that you couldn't attain it. At the same time, you're feeling great amount of inner happiness. So they're dividing then this particular thing. I hope we are understanding now. There is a sharp difference in the nature of an experience you describe as pleasure and an experience you describe as delightful. Ananda is different from sukha. Ananda is an internally oriented modification of your mind, and this modification has something to do with the reflection of the pure bliss, which is the Atman. When there is such a reflection and is caused due to one external factor, yes, there is an element of conditionality, you experience the delight. So this Anandamaya Kosha is described as some kind of a modification of the consciousness. Yeah. So that is a kind of, it's very interesting. It's a modification of the consciousness only. And that consciousness, he's saying Priya Moda Pramoda Vrittimat Ajnana Pradhana Sanskara Rupa Anandamaya Kosha Uchyate. Priya Moda Pramoda Vrittimat. What is Priya? The happiness is triggered by your perception. You're seeing something which makes you happy. You have not yet got it. There is no pleasure because you haven't yet got it. But there is a feeling of delight. That is called Priya. What is more that comes to your hand? Yeah. That is given to you. A certain doll is handed over to a little child. The child is elated. Now it has access to it. It is happier. It is more delightful. The baby is more delightful. That is called moda, a sense of blissful experience. Then he is actually playing with it. It's maybe a Chinese doll or whatever. It's a mechanical toy or something in our days. So you can give it the key, and that frog or horse is going to jump around. So you're watching it. And it's not just the sense experience, because what are the sense experience? There's a mechanical toy, a frog or a horse, which is jumping around. You're feeling a great delight inside, showing it to your friends, or you're watching it as a child. So you're experiencing the fruit of your position and access to something which gave you the experience of Priya, then gave you the experience of Moda, and now is giving you the experience of Pramoda. Three levels of delight. Yeah. And he's saying Priya, Moda, Pramoda, Vrittimat. Vritti is Vikara. So the mental modification which enables you to have that first order, second order, and a superior level of delight, that is a sanskara rupa anandamaya kosha. Why are you happy? The Papa had gone out. There's so many YouTube videos. The baby daughter is waiting for Papa, and Papa comes and honks. The dog jumps around. The little girl jumps around. Papa is home. Why she's happy? Papa hasn't entered the house. There is sanskara rupa. It makes her happy. And this experience of happiness we have had from our previous births. That is what how they say. The child, when the mother touches the child is super happy. They ask, does he know anything about why to be happy? What is happiness? How does the child respond like that? Because it's sanskara rupa anandamaya kosha uchyate. So this is that intermediate level. Again, is a modification of consciousness, and that is called anandamaya kosha. Priyamoda pramoda rahitam atmanam priyamoda pramoda mantam iva abhoktaram atmanam bhoktaram iva parichinna rahitam atmanam parichinnam iva. Why do we see the Anandamaya Kosha as Atma? Why is the temptation to see the Anandamaya Kosha as Atma? That is a very powerful question. He's saying, look here, it's a adhyasa, it's a temptation to do superimposition. I am very happy today. We are saying it, right? So happiness is being linked to I, the self. The self is beyond happiness and sadness. But we say, I'm very happy today. He's saying this Atman is neither Bhokta, yeah, it's not a Bhokta, it's not an experience here. And yet, because of our past sanskaras, because of our inability to dissociate, isolate, quarantine, and see the purity of the self as beyond all these vikaras or modifications, we are often tempted to describe ourselves, I'm very happy today. Yeah, that is what the point they're driving home. So we'll proceed and we'll find what this text says. It's very beautiful, a little cliché, a little, it's a little difficult text, but we will make it easy and we'll proceed. What he's trying to say here is, look at the text, and it's very interesting. He's saying antarmukha bahya vishaya bhumukha kachit vrittihi. Antarmukha kachit vrittihi. Certain, because ananda is different from pleasure. And we are trying to now reach the anandamaya kosha. He's saying antarmukha. Then this antarmukha kachit vrittihi, certain modifications of the mind which are internally oriented. And what else? Bahya vishaya bhumukha. Now they are not clinging to certain external objects. Remember that ananda. A letter has come to you. Your dad has written a letter to you, an old letter you found from your files. You are in a school or college and he had written a letter. You have read that letter several times. And suddenly you find it again in one of your, you know, very dear files to you, where you store all your important documents, and you see his handwriting, and is angry with you that you are not waking up in time, you're not taking medicines, you are not paying attention to your studies, you have a few drops of tears in your eyes, and you're feeling very grateful to your dad or your mother, and you are experiencing a sense of delight holding that letter in your hands. It is actually, even though the trigger point is the letter, it is Bahya Vishaya Vimukha. The happiness has nothing to do with the letter, is something which is internally oriented. And this vritti or vikara modification is of what? Dhiyaha vrittihi, of this dhi, this antakarana. And then punyo bhoge punya karmanaha phalanubhava samaye. And he's saying any happiness or delight that we experience is in fact an outcome of our good deeds in the past. We have done a lot of papa deeds. You may succeed and you may still feel guilty. You may not. I mean, Freud has written a lot about it. Punya bhoge punya karmanaha phalanubhava samaye. When you are getting the result of your good deeds, you get the result is declared for you. You scored a very good position, you got a promotion, you got a reward. Ananda pratibimba bhak, that particular Anandamaya kosha. And why is it called Anandamaya kosha? It's Ananda Pratibimba Bhag. What is Ananda here? Is that Atma Tattva, which is pure bliss. And it's reflected in that modification of the consciousness. Ananda, what is Ananda? Niratisaya Ananda Swarupam Param Brahma. Ananda is defined as Niratisaya Ananda Swarupam. There is nothing superior to it. Niratisaya Ananda Swarupam. What is it? Param Brahma Tasya Pratibimbam Tasya Anubhavita Bhavati. So when we are experiencing delight, do you know who is the experiencer? Not the self. That is the very sharp, very subtle distinction we have to make between the self and the Anandamaya Kosha. It's a reflection of the Brahman, which is there in a subtle state of the modification of the mind. That is the real experiencer of this delight of first degree or second degree or the highest degree. Priya, Moda, and Pramoda. That is not Atma. Atma doesn't experience anything. Atma is beyond everything. It's a witness of everything. It's in front of it. It doesn't participate in anything. It knows everything. It sees everything. It doesn't participate in anything. Tasya anubhavita bhavati. Kasya. That's sukhatmaka anubhavasya. That particular anandamaya anubhavasya anubhavita bhavati. Then he's explaining. Bahya vishaye sambandhe antakaranam tadakaram iti. When you have Priya, Moda, and Pramoda, the trigger points are some Bahya Vishaya, and then you have Sukha Dukha Anubhuti also. Sambandhe Andakaram Tadakaramiti. When you are seeing a Rasgulla or a Sandesh or chocolate, your mind assumes a certain modification which exactly corresponds to that particular object of your perception. Tadakara vritti, Vishayakara vritti. Vritti is vikara. The mind is undergoing some changes. When we see an action movie, you see one of those cowboy movies or Western movies or crime thrillers and things like that, you also experience some anger, something in you, right? And then you see a horror movie, there's no reason for you to feel afraid, yet you feel scared. Tadakara vritti, Vishayakara vritti. What you experience, your mind is getting modified simultaneously. Swami Vivekananda famously said, as you think, so you become, because you kind of be that. It's a modification of your own thinking, of your mind. Tad vaimukhe antakaranasya antaramukhatve priya moda pramodakara vrittir jayate. Now, when that experience of delight takes place, he's saying, you are actually removing your consciousness from the exact object of your experience. It's a letter from your dad. It's a letter from somebody you love. Maybe it's a flower bouquet on your birthday. The experience of Priya Moda Pramoda, that Ananda, that kind of delight you experience, is triggered by this, starts with this, but it's independent of it. It's internally oriented. You are feeling it deep inside. It doesn't have, I mean, somebody can take away the bouquet and you remain happy. You have nothing to do with it. Tad vaimukhe antakaranasya antaramukhetya priya moda pramodakara vrittir jayate. Sense experience ends, and then there is this beginning of a feeling of delight. Vishaya darsanajam sukham priyaha tallabhe modaha tad anubhave pramodaha. Now he's explaining what is priya, moda, and pramoda. See, sense experience, there is a conditional relationship, and yet this priya, moda, and pramoda, though conditional, are the internal aspect of a flux of human experience. One is called that ananda, linked with the anandamaya kosha. The other one is you have sense experience. Yeah. So he's saying tad anubhave pramodaha. So when you have what gives you happiness, you see that you have priya, sukham priya, tallave modaha. You get it, you have moda. Tad anubhave pramodaha. When you experience it, you have that upalabdhi. Then you have that experience, you have pramoda. Evam priyam modadinam anubhavitri andagana vrittir anandamaya kosha iti uchyate. So you have these vrittis, and that sanskara vishesha in the Ramakrishna Tika, in the Tippani is mentioned. Priya moda pramodadi vrittimata sanskar ajnana pradhana sanskara vishesha anandamaya kosha iti uchyate. Priya, moda, pramodadi, vrittimat. These vikaras are happening in that intermediate level of consciousness. And this sanskara vishesha is a continuation of past experiences now encrypted in us. And then ajnana pradhanaha is not based on the knowledge of the self. Still, that delight is also not liberating. Otherwise, once you have priya, moda, amada, you will get liberated. You will have sachidananda. Experience, no, you're not going to get that. It's not nirati se ananda. That's why anandamaya kosha is also not atma. We're going to refute it. Iyam anandakara vrittir vishayakara karita vrittitva anavachinna. Now this is the interesting part. He's saying iyam anandakara vrittihi avachinna anavachinna, limited unlimited. Iyam anandakara vritti vishayakara karita vrittitva anavachinna. Now, this ananda is different from the Vishaya Sambandha. Somebody gifted you a flower bouquet, right? So the Vishayakaravati is you picked up that flower bouquet. The ananda you are experiencing it, this ananda karavritti is not reducible to that particular Vishayakaravritti. Something, actually when Vishayakaravritti ends, this ananda experience happens. Sukhadi vrittayastu, distinguishing it from experience of pleasure and pain. Sukhadi means dukha included. Vrittayastu, vishayakara karita vrittitva avachinna. Sukha and dukha, pleasure and pain, directly linked with the sense experience. Somebody touches you, pricks you, you say, hey, no, stop it. Or somebody, you are very tired, somebody gives you a very good massage in your back. Ah, very good, continue. That is sukha dukha experience. Vishakarakarita vrittitva avachinna iti bahya sukhaditaha asya anandasya vedaha. So this is the finer distinction between the anandamaya kosha and its vrittis, priya moda and pramoda, and the bahya vishayakarakarita sukhadi vritti. You have some experience of pleasure and pain, completely externally oriented, and this is internally oriented. Priya modadayaha ye anye vishaya anandaha vishayaja anandaha. Now, end of the day, this priya moda ananda, are they happening on their own? No, there is some kind of a sense connection, some indriya sanyoga. So products are external objects. He's saying niratisaya anandasya kalamatra eva. Now this priya moda and all that which are connected with the vishakara vrittis, whatever you're saying, these are a minute part. Yeah. These are minute part of the real Niratisya Ananda, which is the Atma Rupa is explaining. Priya Modadayaha Yo Anye Visayajan Anandaha. Visayaja Anandaha, born out of the external objects. Niratisya Anandasya Kalamatra Eva. They are a tiny particle of the Niratisya Ananda. Niratisya Ananda is that Atma Jnana Swarupa Yasya Tasya Anandasya Sa Anandaha. He's saying this Niratisya Anandasya Kalamatra is a tiny particle of it, tiny part of it. Etasya eva Anandasya Anyani Bhutani Matram Upajivanti. This is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And the fourth Adhyaya, in the third Brahmana, the 33rd sloka, says Etasya eva Anandasya. That means of Atmanaha, which is Niratasya Ananda Swarupasya Atmanaha. Anyani Bhutani Matram Upajivanti. All these people who are not self-realized, they sometimes have some experience of delight. It's a tiny speck of the Ananda which you will experience in Atmajnana. Tat chaya matra eva iti pratibimba sabda swarasata. Why are you saying Chidabhasa, that Ananda pratibimba bhak? Why are you using it? It's a reflection of that pure Ananda. We call it Anandamaya Kosha. He's saying, look, tat chaya matra is just a mild reflection of that pure thing. The example which Vedantins give us is that when you have a tiny mirror and you are trying to use the sunlight to refocus this particular mirror on someone else, you can actually spread some light, but that's not the source light. It's the reflected glory of the sun. As they say, the moon shines with the reflected glory of the sun. It's a little like that. It's a little like the moon. It doesn't have any original light of its own. Therefore, he's saying, Bhoga Santo Virami Upabhogantaram Nidra Rupena Liyante. Now, this particular Anandamaya Kosha, which has certain vikaras or modifications, it's Priya, Moda, and Pramoda, what happens in deep sleep. All you have pleasure and pain, all your punya karmas are over. So, Priya, Moda, and Pramoda, during the day, you have a few good moments. These are all over. Some good news, maybe some bad news, and then you go to sleep. Even if the best thing is given to you, you had a party, you had a birthday party, or you had a good promotion, or you bought a house, you bought a car, so you threw a party, people came, they had food, there was music and bouquets and all that. What happens to you in the end? You go to sleep. Bhoganto virami upabhoganantaram nidra rupena liyate. That now is modified at deep sleep. Sa eva antarmukhi vritti vilayam yanti. And then this whole thing, Anandamaya Kosha, whatever, it's saying that it gets into that, that Vijavastha. It is in that causal state. It is in that Karana Sarira, as they call it. Then he's saying, Sa eva antarmukha vritti vilayam yanti. That Priya, Moda, Ananda, Adi vritti, they also get terminated and you fall asleep. And in fact, in that sleep, you have the best experience of Ananda because there is no conditionality whatsoever. Because of your Purva Punya, you're saying that there is a purer reflection of that Ananda, and therefore it's called the best Ananda you're experiencing. Yeah. So you wake up and you said, I had a wonderful sleep. Now, the counter question from the student, and what is this question? Sukhanubhavastu Anandamaya Dharmaha. Okay, sorry, nanu sukhavat dukkhamapi anubhuyate bhoktra. He's saying, look, any guy, he's experiencing sukha, but he also experiences dukkha, right? So he also experiences, why you call it Anandamaya Kosha? What is the difference? Satyam kintu dukkhanubhavo manodharmaha. The experience of pain is a game which the Manamaya Kosha is playing. मेरा मन ठीक नहीं है. You are depressed. When you are depressed, you are not in your Anandamaya Kosha. You are not in your Vijnanamaya Kosha. You are mostly oscillating somewhere in between your Manamaya Kosha. You are trapped there mostly. Okay. Dukhanubhava manodharmah, sukhanubhavastu anandamaya dharmah. But when you are experiencing these three levels of delight, that has something to do with the anandamaya portion. Anandamaya dharmah. Koswanandaha, what is that ananda? Please explain it to me. He's explaining. Dukkha nivriti rupa ahasved anubhav visheshaha. He's giving you two examples, two alternatives. Do you call it ananda is dukkha nivriti rupa, where there is no pain, or ahasved anubhav visheshaha, there is a special experience, you are calling it ananda? Dukkha nivriti is absence of pain, is pleasure. If you can define it like that, then you say, no, no, it has nothing to do with pain. It is an experience of pleasure, experience of happiness. What is it? He's saying, dukkha bhava eva ananda iti manyante ikaha. The philosophers of Nyaya school of Indian philosophy, they say that what is moksha? Atyantika dukkha nibriti. All the sadness, pain, frustration, anxieties are, you're free from, released from that. That is what is moksha. And the Vedantin laughs. He says, no, you haven't understood it. Because what do you mean by dukkha nivriti is ananda? It's not so simple. It cannot be permanent. Dukkha nivriti in that sense cannot be permanent. You have permanent ananda through atmajnana, and we are going to go there, we will discuss that. They saying Vedantinaha Anandam atiriktam mante Vedantinah. The Vedantis say that Ananda is a different thing. It's a different reality. It's not absence of pain, absence of Ananda dukkha bhavo na bhavati. Ananda is not dukkha abhavaha. Absence of dukkha is not ananda. Tad anirupyatvat. Because this nirupya, nirupita bhava sambandha in Nyaya they say. Tad anirupyatvat. So, do you experience of happiness? Your experience of happiness, is it determined by dukkha or sadness? It's not determined by that. Like, for example, it's quite possible in certain cases you can argue like that you snatch a doll from the child's hand and then it is crying and then you give it back and it's happy. You might say in that particular sequence, you might say that, yeah, so absence of dukkha is happiness. Look, the boy or little girl is smiling again. But if you know, it's not true. Because whenever you are experiencing ananda, it's not defined by absence of dukkha. Because absence of dukkha means there has to be a referential conditionality attributed to sadness. That is going to define our happiness. No, it's not true. That is not how it is. Tad dukkhena na nirupyate, tad dukkha bhavo na bhavati, tad dukkhena na nirupyate. By that dukkha, we don't actually decide that this is this much happiness because there was so much of dukkha. Nothing like that. Tad dukkha bhava na bhavati. Sati sayatvacha iti Vidyaranya Varanyaha. Now, Vidyaranya Charanaha. Now, we will discuss this. What is Atisaya? What is Niratisaya? And why Ananda, that particular thing. Yeah, we'll discuss all that when we are going forward. Swabhavasya Pratiyogi Nirupatva Niyamat. Now, this is a logical requirement in the Nyaya Shastra. I will not go deeper into it, but simple is this. Pratiyogi Nirupyatva Niyamat Swabhavasya. Now let's imagine we say that there is this particular thing. Okay, this is a remote for the AC. Now it is there. Pratiyogi Nirupatva Niyamat. And there is absence of this. The Pratiyogi is absence of this. When you are having this Pratiyogi is not there, therefore it is here. They will say Bhasa Pratiyogi. Pratiyogi Nirupatva Niyama, that is a rule. Yeah. So whatever exists, according to Nyayikas, its absence is always taken into consideration. But this Vedanti doesn't accept, is refusing it. Now we are going to the next verse. Anandamayasya api anatmatam achaste kadas ka iti. somebody kadachitka iti. Now the challenge will be, so you're saying Anandamaya Kosha gives you a lot of happiness. Why is it not Atma? Why are you bringing in between experience of happiness is this particular model of Chidabhasa, that Anandamaya Kosha? Why are you bringing it? Why it cannot be Atma? Okay, now that is being refuted in this verse. Because it's not Nitya, the major reason as to why Anandamaya Kosha is refuted as Atma, because the presence of the Anandamaya Kosha, its functionality, its prominent, or the evidence for its being in function, it's limited for a period of time. It's not Nitya. When you are in deep sleep, you appear to be happy. When there is a Priya, there is something you like into you, and you're seeing it or you're experiencing it. These are sporadic. These are for certain limited periods of time. And because these are conditional, therefore they cannot be Atma. They cannot, because Atma is Nitya. These are all Anitya. That is how he's saying. कादाचित्कत्वतो नात्मा स्यादानन्दमयोऽप्ययं बिम्बभूतययानन्द आत्मा सौ सर्वदा स्थितिः. Now Anandamaya Kosha and Ananda proper, the distinction is made in this sloka. Kadachitkatvatah na atma. This particular Anandamaya Kosha is not present all the time. Is not evident all the time. The delight we're experiencing it for a few seconds or minutes, maybe hours. It's not there all the time. Therefore, syad, na atma syad anandamayo api ayam. Even though its name is Anandamaya, just because its name is Anandamaya, it's not going to be confused with Atma, because by very nature, it's transient, it's evanescent. It's there for a while, it's not permanent. So, what is Ananda? What is Atma, which is Sachidananda Swarupa, is different from here, and you're referring to as pure Ananda? What is that bliss? Bimba Bhuta Ya Ananda. One is Pratibimba, the other one is Bimba. You have the sun, it has its own light, sunlight. Then you have a tiny mirror, just like the Anandamaya Kosha, reflecting the sunlight. Now, this is Bimba and this is Pratibimba. Chichaya, Chidabhasa, Chidvad Abhasa. So, end of the day, you have the original source of happiness is that Swayam Prakasha Atma. That is the Bimba, affected by someone else. It is the experiencer. There is no one who can experience the Atma, Vishayatvena, as an object of experience. No one is going to experience it and will refute those issues. Okay? Ya Ananda, Atma aso sarvada stite. Why you call it Atma? Sarvada stite. It's always there. Can you tell me a moment where Atma doesn't exist? No, you cannot. You look at all the Shrutis, look at the very, very detailed explanation given in the Bhashyas and different Puranas and different scriptures. Let's look at the commentary and make sense of what they are trying to say. Ayam Anandamaya Bhokta Atma na syad. Anandamaya Kosha is also Bhokta. Of what? Priya Moda and Pramodadi. Vrittinam Bhokta is experiencing it, but it's not Atma. Kuta, why not? Kadach Kittatvatah, because it is there now, it's not there again. Nairantarya Abhava. It is there intermittently. It's not there without any interruptions. Priya Modadi Vikarashrayatvad ityartha. This Anandamaya Kosha appears to be evident. Its presence becomes evident only when I'm experiencing Priya or Moda or Pramoda. When I see something I love, when I get something I love, or when I experience something I love. Only those moments you have this internal modification called Priya, Moda, and Pramoda, and that is the particular experience that is the Anandamaya Kosha. Adi Kosha Panchakasya Anatmatve Atma Vishayaka Nairasyatvam Eva. apatet ityataha bimba iti. Somebody might raise this issue. Now, if you actually refute Annamaya Kosha is not Atma, because where did you get this body? Once you die, this body is going to fall. Who is going to carry your Papa Punya? Annamaya Kosha cannot be Atma. Okay. Pranamaya Kosha is not Atma, it's Jada, it doesn't have consciousness of its own. Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's weak, sometimes you have a lot of difficulty during COVID, you can't even breathe properly, not Atma. Okay. Manamaya Kosha is not Atma, we discussed in the last two sessions. Vijnanamaya Kosha is not Atma. Now you are saying Anandamaya Kosha is also not Atma, even though it's very subtle. You're saying, yeah. Then don't you think that particular Vishaya, yeah, what is it about? Or what are we discussing about, by the way? Who is that experience you are talking about? It may not exist. Where all of these is anatma, then who is that experiencer? How does he exist? These are all transitional. These are all sporadic. These are all temporary. And the one who is experiencing it may also be temporary. Why do you have to believe that there is something called that is refuted by saying bimba iti? No, don't confuse the anandamaya kosha with pure ananda. That is the bimba. That is the original source. That he is explaining. Bimba bhuta yasya anandasya pratibimba bhutad manushyanandam arabhya brahmananda paryanta anyan आनंदान आस्वादयन अकामहत श्रोत्रिय अग्रणो हावुर इति साम गायन आस्ते. Now there is this powerful, beautiful verse in the Chandogya Upanishad. You have these experiences at different levels, and end of the day you get that experience of Atmajnana, and you say Havur. You don't know what words to use to experience that sense of exaltation or happiness. Oh, yes, this is what I was looking for. Yeah. You have that aha moment in the end. That is saying, Aso bimba bhuta adhisthana bhuta aditya aso ananda atma bhavati, where there is no more any limitations. There are no more any questions. There are no more any doubt, no anxiety. And you have that state of perennial happiness, which is captured in a few words called havu, aha, in the Upanishads. That is the bimba. This one, Anandamaya Kosha, is a reflection of that state of happiness, which is free from all restrictions and limitations. This Anandamaya Kosha, subtler, more powerful, closest to the Atma, very subtle, and yet not Atma. The main differentiator, or the filter, is Nitya and Anitya. This Anandamaya Kosha is Anitya, Atma is always Nitya. Tatra Karanama, why so? Please explain it to me. Sarvada Stitehe. Because that's Nitya. That Atma, that Ananda is Nitya. Kalatrayepi Bikaram Anapadya Satvat. Whether it is Susupti Avastha or Shopna Avastha or Jagrata Avastha, that Atma, that Sambit, that consciousness is ever present. It is the witness of all three states. Satatam Gacchati iti Atma. Now he's explaining what is the meaning of this word Atma. It's a beautiful explanation. Somebody might ask us, what do you mean by Atma? Please explain it to me. And he's looking at different dhatu roots, using grammar to make sense of it. Satatam Gacchati iti Atma yata. It keeps going, it's moving, it's ever present, it's all pervading. Then he is saying, Apno Atma, it experiences everything. All that we experience is ultimately witnessed, experienced by, the beautiful example. If you look at the face of Lord Jagannath, he has these large eyes. He doesn't have eyelids. He's ever witness to whatever is happening. Yeah. Adhishta Advitiya so Ananda Atma Bhavati Tatra Karanamaha Sarvada Stitihe Kalatrayepi Vikaram anapadya sattva satatam gacchati iti atma yadava apnoti iti atma yadava atitya atityatma. Now he's saying, no, it sort of transcends and pervades everything, and that is atma. Adyate iti va atma. Adyate, it experiences, it eats. Atma doesn't eat anything. Because it's a very difficult challenge to make sense of that Atma using words which are Vyavaharika. We are talking about something Paramarthika, using language of everyday life. That's how people ask a lot of very foolish questions. It might appear to be very powerful intellectual challenges, but end of the day, they're born out of a certain ignorance about the subject matter that we are discussing. We are not talking about any object. We are talking about that Paramarthika Vastu, which is beyond everything that we see and is all pervading, beyond all names and forms. And Shastra is struggling to make us understand it using different examples and different arguments. Yeah. So therefore, he's saying, now there is another challenge. If you refute all koshas as anatma, okay? Tell me, is there Atma? If there is Atma, how do you experience it? How do I know about it? You are anything which is visible, anything that is experienced is Anatma. Okay, done. Then where is that Atma and how can I experience it? No, no. Annamayadinam Atmatvam Yuktya. Okay, you have strong logic, so therefore you are refuting the Atmatva of Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. You are refuting, fine. Anyasya Atmanah Ananubhuyamanatve Na Atma Vishayaka Nairashyam. Yeah. Tvena Atma Vishayaka Nairashyam Punaha Tadavastam Eva Iti Purvapakhyam Avatarayati. Purvapakya is like a defense lawyer. In our tradition, it's very dialogical. It's always a certain presumption, a certain hypothesis, and there is an examination of that hypothesis, and there is a refutation of that hypothesis. To take our, so it's like, Hegel talks about thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Similarly, it's very dialectical. They always come up with a counter question and understand it and go to the next higher level of understanding and absorption of that particular problem that we are discussing. What is that doubt? Nanu dehamupakramya nidranandantavastusu mabhut atmatvamanyastu na kaschid anubhuyate. He's saying, okay, sir, you have very sophisticated arguments and you have bound my hands, not a problem. Deham upakramya nidrand. Now, starting with the Annamaya Kosha, Nidrananda, so you have the Anandamaya Kosha, Ananda Antavastusu, until the Anandamaya Kosha, all the five koshas are not Atma, you refuted. Mahut, okay, fine, done. He's saying, Atmatvam anyastu nakasid anubhuyate. Then you keep talking about Atma. Tell me how to experience it. Do you have any experience of Atma? You're giving me all sophisticated Upanishadic statements from here and there. Show me, how do you experience it? So, this is the challenge, and we are going to discuss the answer in the next 10-11 verses. Nano deham upakramya nidranandanta vastusu. End of the Anandamaya Kosha, starting with Deha means Annamaya Kosha. Nidrayam yah ananda sa eva anto yesha. This nidrayam yah ananda. The experience of delight that you do during deep sleep is the Anandamaya Kosha. Sa eva anto yesam teshu Annamaya Kosham arabhya. Starting with Annamaya Kosha. Saupsuptika sukhantam anubhuyamanashu bastusu atmatvam mahut. Starting with Annamaya Kosha, then Pranamaya Kosha, then Manomaya Kosha, then Vijnanamaya Kosha, until the Anandamaya Kosha. Anubhuyamaneshu bastusu. Whatever you are having in these koshas, Atmatvam mahut. You are saying, I will refuse to give a certificate that you are the Atma. Done, not a problem. Tesam anatmatvam yuktya. Susadham bhavitu nama. So, okay, so you have established with your good logic, not Atma, not a problem. Anyastu kasyit tebhyo bhinna Atma na anubhuyate. Okay, sir, they are not Atma. I got no problem. Show me where is Atma. It's like the boss. You have a superior boss. You are a regional manager or something, or you're a CEO of a particular, or a head of a vertical. Then your boss comes and he says, this guy will be head of this team and he'll do this project. No, he can't do it. Okay, we'll take the next senior manager. No, he can't do it. Then you lose your temper. You said, okay, who will do it? Tell me, you send somebody who will do it. Similarly, he's saying, okay, tell me who is the Atma. The Panchakosha is not Atma. This is the question. Sloka dasakena paksham pariharati. And then going forward, there will be 10 slokas in which you will be refuting all of this. Sloka dasakena purvapakhyam pariharati. Adau tatra dehadi nidrantanam anubhavitra kenachid annina bhavitavyam ityaha vardhamiti. He's saying, yeah, I agree with you. This is called ardhangikara. When you want to refute an argument in a meeting, they tell you, the coaches, the mentors will tell you, don't disagree from the beginning. You say, yeah, wonderful argument. Then you bring on table a few issues which he cannot disagree with, and therefore you can now bring up the main issue that you have in mind. But don't disagree with him. Badham, that is ardhangikara. Badham nidradayah sarve nubhuyante na chetaraha tathapi te nubhuyante yena tanko nivarayet. He's saying, okay, I agree with you. Nidradayah, starting with the Anandamaya Kosha, the Nidradayah. Then you have the Jagrata Avastha, you have the Annamaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha, the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Sarve anubhuyante na cha itaraha. Yes, these are the objects of your experience, nothing else. Done. Tathapi ete anubhuyante yena. But then, all these experiences that are experienced and made sense of, there should be somebody to do it. Who wakes up and says that I had a wonderful sleep? Aham sukham aswapsam na kinchid avedisham. I don't know anything. I had a wonderful sleep. Who is saying that? There must be something. You are remembering a happiness. You can remember what you experienced. But your buddhi was asleep, your manas was asleep. Who was experiencing it? There must be something, right? That is Shakshi Chaitanya. That is what he's trying to say. Tathapi ete anubhiyante yena. These courses are being experienced and witnessed by somebody. Koha tam nivaret. Who can deny the presence of something else, a witness, as a result of which we know everything else. Nidradaya anubhiyante itara atma na anubhiyate. Iti yatte mugdhavachaha. You are deluded by your own wisdom. Mugdhavacha, people are very happy with what they're saying and saying, oh, okay, good. You seem to be very happy with what you have. But truth of the matter is that Badham Satyamiti Andhikare is Ardhangikare. He's extremely okay, I agree with you. Tathapi ete yena ete nidradayaha anubhiyante. You had a wonderful sleep, you're saying, when you wake up. There must be someone who experienced it. Tam jnataram ko nivare. There must be a jnata of these experiences. Atmani anubhuyamanepi nidra nandadi sarva vyavaharanam anubhavita kaschid vidyate. There must be an anubhavita. There must be a witness of all these states: priya, moda, pramoda, the deliberations that you undergo, the sankalpa vikalpa you do, the activities you do with the help of your pranamaya kosha, and all these strengthening of your body you do with the help of your annamaya kosha. There must be someone above all these to witness all that. Iti abasyam abhyuvagantabyam. You must agree with me. So we have hit the timeline, and now anupalavdher atmanaha asattvamiti sankam apanudati swayamiti. Now he's saying, look here. The problem is, just because you can't experience Atma as a Vishaya of your knowledge, object of your knowledge, that doesn't become non-existent. Atma is not Vedya Vastu. In the sense, you know physics, chemistry, and mathematics, you cannot know Atma. Because you are not different from Atma. Please understand this. We use a word in English called introspection. But you are introspecting means what? You are thinking about your thoughts. You are not a thought. You are thinking about your thoughts. Go deeper. There's still an existence which, supersedes, transcends, and sort of covers up all this. And that is the stuff that we are talking about. We'll take it forward tomorrow. So I'll put this discussion to an end, and let's do the Santi mantras, and we'll start again tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you.